Hazel arrives, breathless and flushed, fresh snow in her hair. Wordlessly, she sits on the stool next to the table, takes Gail's hand and holds it against her lips. My mother doesn't acknowledge her even. She's gone into that special zone that includes only herself and the patient, and occasionally Prim. The rest of us can wait. Even in her expert hands, it takes a long time to clean the wounds. Arrange what shredded skin can be saved. Apply a salve and a light bandage. As the blood clears, I can see where every stroke of the lash landed and feel it resonate in the single cut on my cheek. I multiply my own pain once, twice, 40 times, and can only hope that Gail remains unconscious. Of course, that's too much to ask for. As the final bandages are being placed, a moan escapes his lips. Hazel strokes his hair and whispers something while my mother and Prim go through their meager store of painkillers, the kind usually accessible only to doctors. They are hard to come by, expensive, and always in demand. My mother saves the strongest for the worst pain. But what is the worst pain? To me, it's always the pain that is present. If I were in charge, those painkillers would be gone in a day because I have so little ability to watch suffering. My mother tries to save them for those who are actually in the process of dying, to ease them out of this world. Since Gail's regaining consciousness, they decide on an herbal concoction he can take by mouth. That won't be enough, I say. They stare at me. That won't be enough. I know how it feels. That will barely knock out a headache. We'll combine it with some sleeping syrup, Katniss, and he'll manage. The herbs are more for the inflammation, my mother begins calmly. Just give him the medicine, I scream at her. Give it to him. Who are you anyway to decide how much pain he can stand? Gail begins to stir up my voice, trying to reach me. The movement causes fresh blood on his bandages. An agonized sound comes from his mouth. Take her out, says my mother. Haymitch and Peta literally carry me from the room while I shout obscenities at her. They pin me down on the bed in one of the extra bedrooms until I stop fighting. While I lie there, sobbing, tears trying to squeeze out of the slits of my eyes, I hear Peta whisper to Haymitch about President Snow, about the uprising in District 8. She wants us all to run, he says. But if Haymitch has an opinion on this, he doesn't offer it. After a while, my mother comes in and treats my face. Then she holds my hand, stroking my arm, while Haymitch fills her in on what happened with Gail. So, it's starting again? She asks, like before. By the looks of it, he answers. Who would have thought we'd be sorry to see old Cray go? Cray would have been disliked anyway because of the uniform he wore. But it was his habit of luring starving young women into his bed for money that made him an object of loathing in the district. In really bad times, the hungriest would gather at his door at nightfall, vying for a chance to earn a few coins to feed their family by selling their bodies. Had I been older when my father died, I might have been among them. Instead, I learned to hunt. I don't know exactly what my mother means by starting things again, but I'm too angry and hurting to ask. It's registered, though, The idea of worse times returning. Worst times returning because when the doorbell rings, I shoot straight out of bed. Who could it be at this hour of the night? There's only one answer. Peacekeepers. They can't have him, I say. Might be after you, Hamish reminds me. Or you, I say. Not my house, Hamish points out, but I'll get the door. No, I'll get it, says Mother quietly. We all go, though, following her down the hallway to the insistent ring of the bell. When she opens it, there's not a squad of peacekeepers, but a single snow-caked figure. Madge. She holds out a small, damp cardboard box to me. Use these for your friend, she says. I take off the lid of the box, revealing a half-dozen vials of clear liquid. They're my mother's. She says I could take them. Use them, please. She runs back into the storm before we can stop her. Crazy girl, Hamish mutters as we follow my mother into the kitchen. Whatever my mother had given Gale, I was right. It wasn't enough. His teeth were gritted. His flesh shines with sweat. My mother fills a syringe with clear liquid from one of the vials and shoots it into his arm. Almost immediately, his face begins to relax. What is that stuff? Peeta asks. It's from the capital. It's called morpholine, my mother answers. I didn't even know Madge knew Gale, says Peeta. We used to sell her strawberries, I said, almost angrily. What am I angry about, though? Not that she's brought the medicine, surely. She must have had quite a taste for them, says Hamish. That's what needles me. The implication that there's something going on between Gale and Madge, and I don't like it. She's my friend, is all I say. Now that Gale has drifted away on the painkillers, everyone seems deflated. Prim makes each of us eat some stew and bread. A room is offered to Hazel, but she has to go home to the other kids. Hamish and Peeta are both willing to stay, but my mother sends them home to bed as well. She knows it's pointless to try this with me, and leaves me to tend Gale while she and Prim rest. Alone in the kitchen with Gale, I sit on Hazel's stool, holding his hand. After a while, my fingers find his face. I touch parts of him I've never had cause to touch before. His heavy dark eyebrows, the curve of his cheek, the line of his nose, the hollow at the base of his neck. I trace the outline of stubble on his jaw, and finally work my way to his lips, soft and full, slightly chapped. His breath warms my chilled skin. Does everyone look younger asleep? Because right now he could be the boy I ran into in the woods years ago, the one who accused me of stealing his traps. What a pair we were, fatherless, frightened, but fiercely committed to keeping our families alive. Desperate, yet no longer alone. After that day, because we'd found each other. I think of the 100 moments in the woods, the lazy afternoons fishing, the day I taught him to swim, the time I twisted my knee and he carried me home. Mutually counting on each other, watching each other's backs, forcing each other to be brave. For the first time, I reverse our positions in my head. I imagine Gale volunteering to save Rory in the reaping, having him torn from my life, becoming some strange girl's lover to stay alive, and then coming home with her, living next to her, promising to marry her. The hatred I feel for him, the phantom girl, for everything, is so real and immediate it chokes me. Gale is mine, and I am his. Anything else is unthinkable. Why did it take him being whipped within inches of his life to see it? Because I'm selfish. I'm a coward. I'm the kind of a girl who, when she might actually be of use, would run to stay alive and leave those who couldn't follow to suffer and die. This is the girl Gail met in the woods today. No wonder I won the games. No decent person ever does. You saved PETA, I think weakly. But now I question even that. I knew good and well that my life back in District 12 would be unlivable if I let that boy die.